Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, we're going to be removing the old floor and we're going to be replacing it with a new tile floor. Now, as you can see around the fireplace, we broke up the tiles that were there already and we removed them. It's a little bit difficult to get them out, but we have an impact hammer and we're able to get underneath the tile and separate it from the subfloor. So here you can see we're breaking up the tile. Without this tool, I think you'd have an extremely difficult time trying to break it up. Now, you can buy the tool or you can rent the tool. Some of the big box stores, they do rent this tool. So we're just going to continue underneath the tiles and separate it from the subfloor. Under the tiles, as you can guess, there was wire underneath there, which makes it a little bit more challenging to get it out. But we're going to take up the wire and the tile, and once we have it all up, then we're going to continue to put down the new floor so that it looks like it's always been there. Now here you can see the wire is pretty, it's coming up pretty good, the tile. We're just pulling it out of there and disposing of it. But without that impact gun, we would have absolutely not been able to get this thing out of there whatsoever. It's extremely difficult to get it out. All right, so that tool comes in very handy. So we're underneath there and we're able to break up all of the tiles. So once we get all of these tiles removed and we'll take out all the debris that's in here, we'll come back and we'll start to get ready to remove the other floor now. Next, we turn our attention to removing the tiles that are in the other part of the room that we're working on now. We go in here with the scraper, and as you can see with the scraper, it comes up fairly easy. We just go underneath the tile and pull it out, just so we have a nice clean surface below that. Now, you can use any kind of an ice scraper or any kind of a scraping tool whatsoever. If you don't have a tool, you can use a shovel. You can get underneath it with a shovel and you can pull it out as well. They come out fairly easy, as you can see. And we're just going to continue until we have all of the tiles, the stick down tiles that are down here now. We're going to remove them to expose the subfloor below to make sure that the subfloor is in good condition. Now once we pull everything out, we can see that the subfloor is in fairly decent condition. It's not really damaged at all, so we're in good shape. We got everything cleared out of here. Any little pieces that were on there, we're going to clean them up, we'll sweep them away, and then we'll chisel anything that's loose, that's laying in the way. We'll just chisel that out of the way as well. We pack up all our debris, and we'll get ready to put down the new wire and continue with that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to go around on the floor. We're going to feel to see if there's any nails sticking up. If there's any nails sticking up, you want to hammer them down so that you can't feel them anymore. Or if you want, you can just pull them right out and get rid of them in preparation of putting down the new wire, of course. So we have everything cleaned up. We've got to take our wet and dry vacuum. We're going to go around and we're going to vacuum everything up so that we have no debris laying on the floor whatsoever. We're going to stretch our wire out. Once we have the wire stretched out, we're going to staple the wire to the existing subfloor. Now, I want to mention this to you too. If you have any kind of bounce in the floor or any kind of movement to the floor, at this point before you put the wire down, you want to screw down the subfloor so that there's no play in the floor whatsoever, so that everything is nice and tight. We're going to take our wire now, we're going to lay it out exactly as we want it, up against the wall itself. We're going to take our staple gun and we're going to staple it down. Now I want to tell you this, there is no such thing as using too many staples. You want to make sure that this wire is down nice and tight because, as you know, the wire is what's going to support the thin set that we're going to install the tiles on top of. So we're going to use plenty of staples to make sure that everything is nice and tight and that there is no movement in there. I will tell you that the staples you're probably going to use every 6 inches or so. You're going to have a staple, so it's better to have too many staples than not enough because you don't want any kind of movement in that wire whatsoever. So now we're going to continue around. We're going to put that wire down on all of the floor itself. We'll continue around, and once we have that wire down, then we'll come back and we'll start to do the installation of the tiles themselves. All right, so let's continue putting down the wire. And you can see the wire is held down pretty good. The wire is, when the two sheets come together, you want to have one sheet overlap the other sheet, so that way there is no separation whatsoever. Now here you can see we have the wire down, and we laid out where our island is going to be in anticipation of coming in there and putting our drain in there, and to install our hot and cold water as well as our electrical coming up through the floor itself. So now once we have all that set up and we know exactly where our island is going to be, it's time to come in here now, and we're going to come in and we're going to start to install the tiles over the top of the wire that we put on. All right, we're going to go into the other part now, and we're going to lay down that wire in there. And of course this tape is coming back up. The tape is just down now, so we knew exactly where the base unit was going to be, and where our water line was coming in, and where our water and sewer and drain was going out. Okay, so as you can see now, we laid the tiles down, and we just measured out to make sure everything is going to come out exactly as we wanted it to be. Once the tiles are set and we know that it's going to come out perfectly with the layout of the floor itself, we snapped a line exactly where the tiles are going to go, so we now have a reference point of where the tile is starting, where each tile is going to join into the next one, and then we continue with that all the way along, so we have a nice point to follow when we install the mud, and then we install the tile itself. Just remember, it's easier to lay it out now and make any changes that you may have, instead of putting it down with the thin set and then having to remove it later on. And when you mix up the thin set, you don't want to have it too thin, as it'll be running all over the place. You want to have it still hold its form when you put it down. So you want to have the consistency of something like peanut butter when you mix up the water and the cement. All right, so now we laid down the thin set. We have our level right there. We packed in some of the thin set on top of the wire, and then we made the grooves in it for the tiles to be to adhere to. We took our level after we installed it, and we checked it to make sure that everything was exactly as we wanted it before it starts to dry. And then we just continue on down the line, and we do one straight line, and then we'll come back and we'll run the next line all the way down as well. 3 tiles at a time we're doing, because we actually offset them. As you can see, we staggered them, so that way all of the joints are not on top of each other in one straight row. This is just the way that I decided to do it. If you wanted the tiles where they were all straight lines in there, you could do that as well, but that's personal preference. This is the way that we elected to do it, so that way the joints are staggered, and it looks a little bit, you see a lot less of the lines itself. All right, so we put the thin set down on the floor, and then we back buttered the back of the tile itself, just to make sure that we have a nice clean surface for it to adhere to. And of course, we're going to grab our utility knife, and we're going to clean out the joints to get the cement with a thin set out of the joints before it dries, because once it dries, you know it's going to be difficult to get it out. Again, we took our level and we put our level on it to make sure that everything lined up exactly as we wanted it to, because once it dries, it's going to be very difficult to do anything with it. All right, so we have a 6-foot level, and we actually have an 8-foot level as well, so that way we can make sure that everything lines up exactly right. All right, we make sure it looks good with the level, and then we'll continue down, and we'll get the rest of the tiles in this one particular row here. All right, as you can see, looks good. We put a level on the side of the tile to make sure that everything was exactly in line, because sometimes it will move a little bit. So here everything is perfectly lined up to where it's supposed to be. And once you're happy and everything looks good, then of course we can continue on to the next row and get that done as well. All right, so now we have our next row in. You want to make sure, as I said previously, you want to make sure that you have all of the thin set out of the joints between the tiles. Make sure that you have everything out of there, because once it dries, you're not going to be able to get it out, and you won't be able to put your grout inside there to make it seal properly. All right, so here you can see we got another row in all the way down, making sure that we use our levels to make sure that everything is exactly level, that nothing is crooked. Because as you know, once it dries, it's not going to really be going any place. So it's much better to check it now with the level instead of finding out that you have a mistake in there later on. All right, so you can see here everything looks really good. Now, even though this is going pretty quickly here, it did take a couple of days to get this done. So some of the tiles have dried where we can walk on them, and others can't. So you want to make sure that you don't step on the tiles for at least 24 hours so that the cement has time to dry. As you can see, we have that side is all finished. Moving to the other side now, we're going to make sure that we have no debris underneath there. We're going to come in here with our thin set, and of course we're going to put some more thin set underneath there. We'll install the last few tiles underneath here, and then that will pretty much finish up this room here. All right, we just put our last couple of tiles in now, and then this room will be finished. Now, before we do anything as far as the grouting, we're going to make sure that this thoroughly dries overnight so that everything is dried. Next, we're going to come in here, we're going to mix up our grout, and then we're going to take the grout and we're going to go in between each one of the tiles. We're going to use a float to push the grout in between the tiles. We're going to work in small sections. We're not going to do the entire floor at one time because we need to make sure we wipe it away so it thoroughly cleans off the tile itself, because otherwise you're going to wind up having a hard time cleaning off any of the debris on top of the tile itself. All right, so you see we're nice and clean now. The joints are all cleaned up. We took our float and we pushed the grout in between all of the tiles. Once it starts to set up and dry a little bit, we come in here with the damp sponge and we wipe it away and take off the excess grout that's on the tiles themselves. And here it is. We're just cleaning the floor after everything is done. We'll come in over one more time just to clean off any of the residual grout that's on there. And that's it. Now when you dump this bucket of water out, don't dump it down your drain because it is cement and you will clog up your drain. Dump it out someplace where it's not going to affect anything as far as your drains. But here it is. This is the finished product itself. We're going to come over one more time with a bucket of fresh water to clear it off. And then this job is done and we're on to the next. Now you can see right there in the doorway we put our transition piece in because the floor itself, the hardwood floor, is slightly lower than the new tile floor that we installed. So we made sure we put our transition piece in between the floor and the hardwood floor. And that's it. We're all set. All right, I hope this was helpful. I hope I was able to help everybody out. Just watch the consistency of the product you're mixing. Again, you want to make sure it has a consistency of peanut butter and it's fairly thick and it's not too liquidy. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.